The civil rights movement in the United States was not simply a moment in history. It was a powerful, painful, and passionate journey toward justice, equality, and dignity for Black Americans. While textbooks often reduce it to a few landmark events or laws, its heartbeat was the people, courageous individuals who stood up against systemic injustice and risked everything to shift the moral compass of a nation. Their voices, their sacrifice, and their relentless pursuit of freedom reshaped America from the ground up. These were not just political leaders or historical icons. They were ordinary people with extraordinary courage. At the center of it all was Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., whose message of nonviolent resistance became a spiritual rallying cry for the oppressed. Armed with the wisdom of Mahatma Gandhi and the moral force of Christianity, King's sermons and speeches stirred the conscience of a divided country. His "I Have a Dream" speech remains one of the most electrifying declarations of hope and unity ever spoken, but it was his willingness to be jailed, beaten, and ultimately assassinated that marked the true cost of leadership. He walked through the fire so others could walk in freedom. Yet Dr. King was far from alone in this fight. Alongside him was Rosa Parks, a quiet seamstress who sparked a revolution by simply refusing to give up her seat on a segregated bus in Montgomery, Alabama. That act of defiance ignited the Montgomery bus boycott, a movement that lasted over a year and crippled the city's transit system, proving the economic power of peaceful protest. Parks's resolve inspired thousands to believe that dignity was worth standing or sitting for. Then there was John Lewis, the son of sharecroppers who became a fearless force on the front lines. As a freedom rider and later the chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, Lewis faced brutal beatings, including a fractured skull on the Edmund Pettus Bridge during the Selma to Montgomery marches. Yet he never responded with hate. His mantra of "good trouble" became a legacy for generations to come. His voice echoed through Congress decades later, never once wavering from the fight for justice. One cannot overlook Bayard Rustin, the brilliant strategist behind the scenes, who orchestrated the 1963 March on Washington. A gay Black man and pacifist, Rustin often faced discrimination even within the movement he helped build. Yet his intellect, organizational genius, and unwavering belief in nonviolence were indispensable to its success. His story reminds us that not all heroes are in the spotlight. Some are the architects behind the moments we celebrate. Fannie Lou Hamer was another towering figure, born into poverty in Mississippi, who rose to national prominence by speaking truth to power. Her stirring testimony at the 1964 Democratic National Convention, where she challenged the all-white Mississippi delegation, laid bare the brutality of voter suppression in the South. "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired," she declared, giving voice to millions whose cries had long been ignored. Her strength came not from political power, but from her unbreakable faith and righteous indignation. And then there was Malcolm X, often seen as a counterbalance to King's philosophy, yet equally crucial to the movement. His unapologetic stance on Black pride, self-defense, and liberation spoke to the anger and frustration of those who felt left behind by peaceful methods. His evolution from a street hustler to a profound political thinker and international human rights advocate is a testament to the transformative power of education, faith, and purpose. Malcolm's voice was sharp, clear, and needed, forcing America to confront uncomfortable truths. In the classroom, the courtroom, and even the kitchen table, heroes of the movement were everywhere. Thurgood Marshall, the first Black Supreme Court justice, paved the way through legal battles, most notably the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education case that struck down school segregation. His brilliance in the courtroom opened doors that had been bolted shut for centuries. Meanwhile, unsung heroines like Ella Baker were building grassroots power. Baker believed in collective leadership over charismatic figures. Her work with the NAACP, SCLC, and SNCC focused on empowering young people and communities to lead themselves, reminding us that revolutions are not only led from podiums, but from front porches and church basements. Youth were also central to this movement. Children like those in the Children's Crusade of Birmingham faced water hoses and attacked dogs just to demand the right to learn with dignity. College students formed sit-ins, staged walkouts, and challenged institutions across the nation. The courage of these young voices proved that change doesn't wait for adulthood. It demands urgency. Women carried the movement on their backs. Diane Nash, co-founder of SNCC and a key figure in the Freedom Rides in Selma campaign, risked her life again and again to make the Constitution mean something real for Black people. Countless women, often unnamed, fed marchers, opened homes, typed flyers, and trained protesters in nonviolence. They were the silent backbone of every visible action. The media played a paradoxical role, initially ignoring the brutality, but eventually becoming an unwilling ally. Televised images of peaceful protesters being clubbed, hosed, and jailed forced everyday Americans to confront the evil in their midst. These images, combined with the dignified resolve of the movement's leaders, shifted public opinion and pressured lawmakers to act. Landmark victories like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 were not gifts from Congress. They were demands won through blood, sweat, and soul. Yet the work didn't end there. The legacy of the civil rights movement lives on today through movements like Black Lives Matter, education reform, prison abolition, and economic justice. The heroes of the past handed us a baton, not to admire, but to run with. Their courage must become our commitment. Their stories must fuel our action. Their dream is still unfinished. It's easy to look back and praise them now, but at the time, they were arrested, ridiculed, surveilled, and in many cases killed. Their sacrifice was not for fame. It was for freedom. To honor them, we must continue to ask hard questions. Are our schools equal? Is our justice system just? Do all citizens truly have equal access to opportunity? If not, then the movement is still alive, and so must be our response. The heroes of the civil rights movement were not superheroes. They were mothers and fathers, students and teachers, preachers and lawyers, janitors and journalists. They came from the cotton fields and college campuses. Their power was not in their perfection, but in their persistence. They walked when there were no roads, spoke when no one would listen, and believed when there was no evidence to believe. Their footsteps mark the path of possibility, and their courage lights the way forward. History may remember them as giants, but they were once ordinary people, just like us, who dared to believe they could change the world, and they did.